Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content.
It just so happens all the stories I'm fascinated about, Dave Wannstedt, 39 years coaching NFL and college, is so connected to all of them. And I want to start with Green Bay. They went and got a college football coach and said, we're going to bring you in to coach our defense. And that's not what happens much. You know Jeff Hafley. Are you surprised that in a 18, 19 games since he arrived, the defense is just noticeably better?
No, I'm not, because he's got a great background. Proud to say that I was part of that, but I'm not kidding. But it's kind of a funny story. He was coaching at the University of Albany. And when I was the head coach at Pitt, I was one where if a young coach wanted to come down and watch practice or sit in the meetings, I was never one of those guys. We're secretive. No, I wanted to. If these guys want to learn, let them come in here and learn, right? That's how we all grew up. That's how the Marv Levy's and the Marty Schottenheimers, how they treated me when we wanted to go around and visit. And so Hafley, the defense coordinator, says, this guy's coming in, Jeff Hafley. Watch practice. Well, great. So he's in practice. Hey, how you doing? I meet him. Like the next day, I'm getting coffee, and he's standing at the coffee machine. I said, how you doing? Oh, yeah. How was practice? You learn anything? Oh, yeah, coach, thanks. It's great. I said, well, okay, let me know. Like a week later, I go to coffee or walk by, and it's Jeff Hafley again. So this is a true story. So don't you know, 2 weeks into spring practice, one of my young coaches leaves. So I go to the defensive coordinator. I says, what's with this Hafley guy? I said, he's here every day. I says, did somebody offer him a job? We might as well hire him. Wait. And he says, well, coach, we got an opening right now. Guy just left. So I said, well, tell Hafley to come down my office. So he came in, and I said, listen, you're here every damn day anyway. We got a staff meeting in 30 minutes. You're the secondary coach, okay? That's all he gets. So then when I leave Pitt, Greg Schiano calls me. Yeah. Greg's at Rutgers. Greg calls me and says, who's two of your best coaches? And I said, Jeff Hafley and another guy. So Greg hires him at Rutgers, and then Greg gets a Tampa Bay job, and he goes to the Bucs and gets in the NFL.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's done a great job. What jumped out to me, I guess the only thing I'd worry about Green Bay is this. Are they too young to win a Super Bowl?
No, absolutely not. No, you know why? Because the younger you are, the less you think about the Super Bowl. I don't think when we won our first Super Bowl, we were the youngest team in the NFL.
Dallas was?
Dallas. And I don't think Jimmy, I know Jimmy never mentioned the word Super Bowl until we were going to the Super Bowl. I mean, it was all about just another game.
Getting better, and let's keep practicing and see if we can improve and beat this next team.
So sometimes these young players, not naive isn't the word, but their focus is on, I'm trying to establish myself in the NFL, and I want some notoriety. They're not thinking Super Bowl as much as the guy says, I got 3 years left. I mean, it's the ring or nothing. So I think it's a good thing, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, the speed is obvious. So I want to talk, you know Chicago well. And I'd said up during the summer, I said, I almost wonder if you have to make Caleb Williams work. They have failed so many times at quarterback that you're just going to have to give him 3 years, and you're not going to win every game. You may not make the playoffs, but you got to get this right, and eventually he'll get some things down. Or are you a believer that if it looks like it looks through 7 or 8 games where he's missing layups and he's running more than he should, I mean, what happens if he's not good this year? What do you do in Chicago?
Yeah, I think I'm not going to go down that road. I live here, okay? But I'm going to say that I think it's going to work because of the style of offense. And head coach Ben Johnson said afterwards, who I'm a fan of, he said afterwards, I should have run the ball more. They had 35 passes and only 20 runs. Okay, so how do you help a young quarterback? Everybody knows that. You take some pressure off him by running the ball and then those play-action passes. I mean, if you're playing Detroit, Ben was at Detroit. When he was there, they were second in the NFL with yards after the catch with our receivers. That was the biggest thing that everybody was excited about here. we're going to have a good play-action game and hit these receivers. You see St. Brown and these guys catching on the run.
But that's because they run first.
Thank you. Exactly. You're right, Coach. I mean, that's what they do. They run first, and we came out the very first play of the game, and we lined up under center. I loved it. The running back was dotted, and we went play-action pass, and everybody just dropped into coverage, because we hadn't run the ball, and then he threw the check down. Everybody was saying, why didn't he throw it deep? Well, I mean, the check down was open. Yeah. But my point is what you just said, and Ben said it. We got to run the football.
You've talked about this before. You coached in Miami. You're the last coach in Miami. I was saying this earlier, is that Green Bay today with their speed is what Miami wanted to be 3 years ago with their speed. The difference is one of them has patience, one of them plays defense. Is that I don't think you and I have ever kind of believed in McDaniel building a culture. We think he's a smart guy. But they had a players-only meeting after week 1. What does that tell you?
Well, that tells you that they're frustrated. That tells you that somebody in their minds is not carrying their end of the load. There's something missing. You got to pick it up. That's, you get in those player meetings, that's what usually happens.
Did Jimmy ever have a players-only meeting in Dallas?
No, I don't remember. If the players did, I can't remember one. I can't remember one anywhere I coach. Chicago. I mean, they have them, but usually what happens is, hey, come on, we got to pick it up, and they're really saying, Colin, you got to play better defense, or you got to play better offense. It's never them, okay? Right. It's never the guy talking or calling the meeting. It's always somebody else needs to do a better job. And I don't know, when Miami, we say they were fast and they were explosive, but it still comes down to throw the ball to score points, run the ball to win games. That's what got the Bears on Sunday. They could not run the ball.
Minnesota could.
At the end, when everybody said, okay, we got an even game here, and they knew they were going to run it, and you knew you had to run it, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But Minnesota did. I go back to the Dolphins game 3 years ago. Yeah. They're playing Buffalo in the playoffs.
Oh, I remember this.
Remember, and a third-team quarterback is in there.
Skylar Thompson.
Thank you. Skylar Thompson's in there, who's the third team, and they lose the game to Buffalo, and I look at the stats, and it was 35 passes and 20 runs. And I'm thinking and it was cold. It was in Buffalo.
And a third-string quarterback.
Third-string quarterback. So, I mean, some guys.
You told me after that, you bailed.
I was done with it. That was it. I saw everything. I mean, these guys got to still believe in running the ball. And I think Ben Johnson, back to you, I think he does, because he'd proven, 3 years as calling plays in Detroit, that he ran the football. And so I think it'll happen. I think it'll be good for Caleb. I really do. I might move him around a little bit more, not, just a little half sprint and let him get the ball out. Everybody gives you that crap. Oh, we're going to cut the field in half. So what? It's a run-pass option for the quarterback. Yeah. And if you complete some balls and give them some confidence, I don't see a problem with that.
I thought Dallas, I wouldn't say shocked me, but if CeeDee Lamb doesn't drop that deep ball, and CeeDee's a good player, so they're going to go to him again. I had my reservations about Brian Schottenheimer, who hadn't interviewed for a head coaching job in 14 years. He's considered sort of an old school offensive guy compared to the new guys. I guess my take was this, is that they were buttoned up. There weren't a lot of penalties.
Yep.
The clock management was good. Is that Brian Schottenheimer allowing his coaches to coach? Because Eberflus can coach defense. But when I watched them, the thing that kind of took me by surprise was I liked Mike McCarthy, but there was a lot of penalties. I didn't like clock management. Schottenheimer, I thought that Dallas looked buttoned up to me.
They did, and they were. He's got a lot of experience. His dad was an outstanding coach in the NFL, Marty, for years. So he's been around good people. And you mentioned Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus is a ex-head coach. So you got a guy that's your coordinator that can call defense.
And he knows what a head coach needs.
He knows what a head coach needs, somebody to bounce some things off of. So, and I think Jerry deep down really, really wants this to be successful and wants this to work. And I think that the players feel right now they've got a young enough team. They've turned it over. Yeah. They've got pretty good guys. They've got young guys. Anybody that was a potential rough the feathers type of guy, I think is gone. So they got a good young team. And if Dak stays healthy and plays good, you're going to see him win some of those games that they had a chance to win against Philadelphia.
So one of the teams that really was just did not look very good was New England. And I defended them. I said, first of all, they spent $300 million in free agency. So there's a lot of new starters. You didn't play those guys in the preseason.
Right.
They're a young roster, so they're going to play more draft picks than your good teams. So my takeaway was they didn't look good because I could argue there's no team in the league that has more new starters and new players, which years ago in week 3 of the preseason, you play them half the game.
Right.
Nobody plays starters. So week 1 of the NFL season for a team with new players, it can get ugly. I mean, there were some, it's just the way it looks. Go back to your Jimmy days with you and Jimmy in Dallas or any place you've been in year 1 when it's new players, and especially college where you don't have a preseason. Do you think New England, eventually the chess pieces work? Were you ever at a place where you knew you were better than the result in week 1 or week 2? You just knew you had new schemes. You had new playbook. You had new coordinators. Is that a real thing?
Absolutely. And I think the worst thing Vrabel could do is win too many too soon because he's got a good young team. You know what I mean? So I would not be concerned if I was a Patriots fan one bit. I mean, you've got the quarterback, the running back. You got pieces in place, got a good head coach. No, I would not worry about that whatsoever. You know, you didn't play as well as you wanted to and didn't win the game. I get that, but I got no reservation. That'd be the last team. I mean, they better beat Miami this week. I mean, that's who they got. I think the Dolphins play the Patriots, right?
Yes, down in Miami.
And that is, you talk about a must game for the Dolphins, a must game in Miami. And what is it, a half a point or a point and a half?
Yeah.
I was, that makes me nervous if you're a Dolphins fan. It truly does. Because if New England turns it on, which they're going to at some point, and starts getting it together.
They have some, they've got
players. They got players.
I want to go back to the Chicago Bears because I live here now, and I'm here a lot. I'm in L.A. about 7-8 weeks a year. But it is fascinating to listen to talk radio in this town. Cubs and Bears, that's the topics.
That's it.
That's it. It's Cubs and Bears. And, you coached in Miami, which was a more transient town. And then you coached in Dallas, where talk radio and the newspaper guys were aggressive. And one of the things I think about, one of the advantages to being in Green Bay, it's not a big media. The fans are loyal. You don't have a crazy, impulsive owner. There's an advantage to be Green Bay. You can draft and develop. You can sit Jordan Love for 3 years, right? Like that's an advantage in an era where all these owners are billionaires now, and they just think $45 million to fire a coach is a rounding error. They don't care. So Green Bay in this world we live in now, it's an advantage. They don't have a lot of crazy around the organization. But as I drive around Chicago and listen to sports talk radio, it's harsh, it's urgent, and I know owners listen, and I know people in football listen. When you were coaching the Bears, was it different than coaching the Dolphins? The city, it's northern, it's not as transient.
Yep. Oh, big difference.
I mean,
Pittsburgh, I've coached in Pittsburgh, I've coached in Chicago. I mean, they're tough, loud. They study this football. They live it. It's important. On a weekend, I mean, they live their lives through their teams, And Miami, my second year first year, winning the division at the Dolphins, second year, go to playoffs, we didn't sell out our stadium for a playoff game. And the first person that bought a ticket was some lady from Detroit, that was down here visiting. I mean, I remember they had it in the paper, and I said, you think this would ever happen in Chicago or Pittsburgh? No, it is a different mentality. And
I notice it here, and I've lived here 5 months.
Yep.
It is intense. The coverage is intense here.
Yeah, and try getting a ticket to a Blackhawks game, too, for hockey. You'll see that when you're here in the winter. I mean, it's a tough sports town, and It is what it is. I think it's just that blue-collar mentality, you know?
They're tough.
It's tough.
Finally, I want to ask an Oregon question. Oregon plays Northwestern.
Yep.
That's a big noon kickoff game for Fox Sports. I was lucky enough. I covered Oregon as they were exploding as a program. I covered the Joey Harrington team. I was a sportscaster at KGW in Portland. So I was very lucky that I can remember being on the field, and looking at Phil Knight. He's got tears in his eyes, when they won the Civil War and they were going to go to the Rose Bowl. And I always thought one of the advantages to Oregon that Penn State and USC and Michigan and Notre Dame don't have is Oregon had no tradition. So Oregon could say, we're going to have 20 helmets. We're going to have 50 uniforms.
Yep.
We're going to hire a guy from New Hampshire and Chip Kelly that doesn't believe in huddles. Penn State put names on the back of uniforms a few years ago. They took them off 2 years later.
Right.
Notre Dame, Lincoln Riley suggested that USC drop the Notre Dame game. There was outrage.
Yes.
Oregon is so fascinating to me, Coach, because they didn't have tradition, so they created their own. It's like a study in great business. When you, as a guy you coached at SC and the Miami Hurricanes, how do you view Oregon football as they play Northwestern this week?
Well, if you really think about it, and Dan Lanning's done an unbelievable. They only got one returning starter on offense from last year's team. Think about that. The last 3 years, they've been in the top 5 in recruiting, high school, and portal.
Now, think about that. There's 3 Division I football players in Oregon on an annual basis, the state of Oregon. So they have to leave the state to convince you to go there.
National. You look at their roster, and the thing that's happened when they first came, when all these and I've been doing Big Ten football here for years, you know that.
Yeah.
And when all of these Pac-12 teams, the Oregons, the USCs, came to the Big Ten, everybody was talking about, are they going to be physical enough? You're talking about Big Ten football as compared to the fast game, the basketball
finesse
of the West Coast. Well, Oregon last year wins the Big Ten, okay? And they proved that they could be as physical as anybody. Well, now they might be, if you look at every team around the country, they're about as fast a maturing team as anybody. I mean, they're a lot better than anybody thought.
Yeah.
And talent-wise, they have talent on all levels, a lot more than anybody thought. He convinced their quarterback, Dante Moore, to sit a year. So he was on the roster last year. He transferred from UCLA.
That's right.
He's sitting on the roster, not playing, just watching Dylan Gabriel.
He was a 5-star, number 1 quarterback country kind of player.
And they convinced him to sit and watch and learn. And he did that behind Gabriel. And now he's the guy who's completing 77% of his passes. I mean, so they have a culture. They got great support. We know that. And Dan Lanning does a great job of getting players and coaching these guys. And I tell you what, Oregon, and we got Ohio State and you got Penn State, and I get it.
But I think right now today, I was saying this. If you told me top 5 programs in the country, I'd probably put Oregon 4 or 5.
At the low, Coach, I might put them higher than that.
Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, Oregon.
I'm putting them ahead of, I won't buck Ohio State, but I would definitely put them ahead of Alabama or anybody.
Right now.
Right now.
It's an incredible story.
Right now.
I mean, it's just funny that when I was part of, not part of it, but when I covered them, they had such a freedom because they had no history. So they could just do whatever they wanted. They were totally outside of the box. And you look up 15 years later and you're like, they are a top 5 program.
And, when we first went to the NFL, I remember Al Davis, we would always work against the Raiders. First year we went out there to California for training camp, where the Cowboys used to go. And Al Davis used to talk about, we have to get, at that time, the old San Diego Chargers with Dan Fouts and Joyner and those guys. They were speed. How are we going to beat the Chargers? We've got to match their speed. So the Raiders started transforming a little bit to the fast wide receivers. The matchup wouldn't be able to do what the Chargers did. Okay. Oregon comes in here and they say, this is power football. Well, now all of a sudden after last year, the Big Ten's looking around saying, well, you know what? we got to be if we're going to beat these guys and win, we got to
be as fast as Oregon.
We got to be as fast as Oregon. So that you talk about tradition and a little bit of transformation. There's that going on a little bit.
Yep.
If you look close in the Big Ten.
Yep. Dave Wannstedt, great seeing you.
Good seeing you too.
You're going to take me out to dinner next week at one of your haunts?
I'm going to go. I'm going to prep a place for us tonight. It'll be warm. Your seat will be warm.
Do some scouting. It's the Herd.